So, let's start with some questions, shall we? I teased earlier this week that I was going to be making some posts responding, should we say, to some statements, beliefs, misconceptions. Essentially the stuff that people hear all the time that perhaps isn't very helpful. And I will preface this by saying, while I'm talking about ADHD, because it's my personal journey, a lot of these I think stand true for any, if you like, hidden disability or difficulty, whether it be Asperger's or dyslexia or dyspraxia or autism. A lot of the same things are said, but nonetheless, this is the ADHD journey. So I posted something last week, sort of heart on my sleeve, when I realised that I was having a very, very, very tough time with ADHD. And it caught me off guard because I've had my diagnosis since January of 2020. I've had a long time on a very big dose of stimulant medication, which is there to help. It's not a panacea, but it's definitely there to help. So for me to realise things were bad was a bit of a surprise. So I posted. And for the most part, I know that the people that commented were lovely and said nice things. However, not unexpectedly, there were some comments from people who, whether it's through lack of understanding, whether it's through lack of belief that ADHD is actually a thing, and there are still those people that don't believe ADHD is real, there were some comments made that really, really sting for me, and they can be summarised by the pictures I sort of shared, and I'll throw those up on the screen in a moment. But things like, oh well, the things you're talking about, the things you say you have problems with, everyone struggles with those, that's got nothing to do with ADHD. Okay, or sort of, everyone's got a little bit of ADHD. Oh, everyone's a little bit ADHD. We all struggle to be organised sometimes. We all struggle to remember things sometimes. Okay, yep, fine. So let me pose a question. I'll let it sink in, and then I'll second guess the answer. If I was sat in front of you now and I had told you that I was an alcoholic, a drug addict, for example, would anybody really say to me, oh yeah, but everyone likes to drink every now and again, or everyone likes a line every now and again, oh, those problems aren't anything special? I mean, you wouldn't, would you? You wouldn't. But people seem to think that because ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, is maybe a bit more esoteric, it's a bit more hard to put your finger on, that it's okay to say things like that. Now, whether that's because they think that's helpful, whether people think those kind of things are actually making it feel better, you're not so different, I don't know. But believe you me, as much as I wouldn't change ADHD and what it does for me, I don't want to find these things a struggle. And I posted on that video about the fact that was me trying really hard. I mean, like, as hard as I could to figure out what was going on. Now, that was a week ago. Earlier this week, I I had an appointment with my psychiatrist, and there's a thing, you see, I mean, really, why would I have an appointment with a psychiatrist if it was no more difficult for me than for anyone else? Clearly, we'd all have psychiatrists. Because I can afford that, right? I'm that flush with money, I can afford to see a psychiatrist just because, you know, I'm finding things a little bit tough. No. Anyway, I had the appointment. And some interesting things came out from it. We discussed almost everything that's been going on through COVID and the video, and it transpires, and this was news to me, that the dose of medication that I have been on, coupled with, and this is a new one for me, incredibly high levels of anxiety that I live with, that I didn't realise I lived with, those two things, which scientifically are known as comorbidities, by the way, and there's lots of them that exist, but comorbidities meaning two or more conditions that exist concurrently. But my two comorbidities, ADHD, very severe anxiety, essentially, it would appear several months ago, stopped my medication from working. So I've been taking medication on the assumption that it was working, and actually it's not been doing anything. Now that was a bit of a shock to me. That was a bit of a, took the wind out of my sails, if you like. But it makes perfect sense, because as my psychiatrist said, for me to be back there in front of the kitchen sink with 1,000,001 things left done and my brain going at 1,000,000 miles an hour, not being able to stop it, well, that's me when I first met her. That's me at my worst. And that's why I'd got to that point of a struggle. So this little video here, what I'm trying to say is, if you know someone, child, adult, whoever, who's telling you that they find something very difficult, whether that's concentration, whether that's coordination, whether that's focus, whether that's sticking to making lists, whether that's prioritizing, not procrastinating, whatever it may be. And believe me, there are so many things, so many things that shouldn't be difficult, but are for people with ADHD. If you know someone who's telling you that, please listen, take them seriously. Don't try and neutralize their struggle by telling them, oh, everyone's got that, everyone finds that difficult. Because whilst everyone does at some point find being organised difficult, whilst everyone at some point does lose things or finds prioritising difficult, it's not about the finding it difficult, it's about the ability to see a way through it. That's the ADHD struggle. Knowing that you're trying, knowing that you're fighting to the point that it's painful, and still not being able to succeed. That's not everyone's reality. It just isn't. So, those kind of statements, everyone struggles, it's not special, I hate to tell you, A, they're wrong. B, for the most part, they're incredibly offensive. I find them incredibly offensive. And I don't know anyone that has a condition like this who doesn't find those comments incredibly offensive and hurtful. Because it really makes you feel like people are essentially saying, stop making it up, try harder, pull your socks up, stop being a drama queen. Like I said, here am I at 47 years old, and only just now have I found out that I have massive levels of anxiety, huge, and that fights with the ADHD. That's a hard pill to swallow, something I have to deal with daily. that I know not everyone does. So there's a phrase going around at the moment with the whole COVID-19 thing and people's reactions to lots of things, and I'm gonna piggyback on it, and that phrase is just simply this: be kind. Think about what you say. Think about the things you're putting out there for people. Please.